Hey basketball fans, listen up, because what the Atlanta Hawks are planning for March 16th goes way deeper than a weird marketing stunt. There's something much bigger hiding behind this so-called tribute to a strip club, and once you see the full picture, you won't be able to unsee it. What is the real strategy behind all this smoke? And why did this decision catch players like Luke Kornet completely off guard? Could this actually be a calculated move toward a goal that nobody is talking about? Let's slow down and break this apart layer by layer, because this story is a lot more complex than the headlines are making it seem. Here's what we know. The Atlanta Hawks officially announced that on March 16th, during their home game against the Orlando Magic, the franchise will be holding a special tribute night dedicated to one of Atlanta's most well-known adult entertainment clubs. And we're not talking about some quiet, behind-the-scenes sponsorship deal that slips through unnoticed. No, the Hawks went all in. They publicly described this establishment as and I'm going to let that sink in for a second, an iconic cultural institution of the city of Atlanta. On top of that, they launched themed merchandise, official products, available for purchase, for everyone. Take a moment and really think about what that means in the bigger context. The NBA is one of the most recognizable sports brands on the entire planet. For decades, the league has carefully built an image centered around family, community, inspiration, and accessibility. This is a league where kids grow up idolizing players, where parents bring their children to arenas on school nights, where the sport itself is used as a tool for education and social development. And now, one of its franchises is openly celebrating with official merchandise and a dedicated game night, a business that operates in the adult entertainment industry. The boldness of this move is genuinely hard to overstate. This wasn't subtle. This wasn't accidental. The Hawks wanted people to see this. They announced it publicly. They made products. They put a date on the calendar. And that right there is the question that nobody seems to be asking loudly enough. Why so openly? Why make this impossible to ignore? But before we get to that answer, we need to talk about what happened next, because the reaction came fast, and it came from a direction that surprised everyone. Luke Kornet, center for the San Antonio Spurs, decided he wasn't going to stay quiet. Kornet went public with his criticism of the Hawks' decision, directly calling for the event to be canceled. According to reporting from Noticia Original, Kornet stated that he and other members of the NBA community were left surprised and concerned after hearing about the planned tribute. He didn't frame it as a personal preference or a minor disagreement. Kornet made it clear that the NBA is supposed to be a safe environment for fans of all ages, and that culture should be honored in a way that reflects responsibility, not just shock value. Now, here's why that matters enormously. Luke Kornet is not a retired player speaking from a distance. He's not a media personality or an outside critic. He is an active professional athlete competing inside the same league who felt so strongly about this that he put his name on a public statement against another franchise's decision. That almost never happens. Players in active rosters rarely step forward to openly criticize choices made by other teams or by league management, because there's an unwritten culture of solidarity, of not creating unnecessary friction within the professional ecosystem. The fact that Kornet broke that pattern, and that he mentioned others inside the NBA shared his concern, tells us this discomfort is not surface level. It's not just parents on social media. It's not just sports journalists filling column inches. There are people inside the league itself, professional athletes, who felt that silence was not acceptable. That is significant. That tells you something deeper is happening here. And Kornet didn't stop there. He went further and brought attention to the darker realities that exist within the adult entertainment industry, specifically naming abuse, harassment, and violence as widespread issues affecting many women in that space. He expressed his hope that the NBA as an institution, along with team owners and fans, would demand that the event be called off entirely. That shifts the entire conversation to a different level, because now we're not just debating whether a basketball game is appropriate for children. We're talking about institutional responsibility. We're talking about the values that the NBA publicly claims to stand for. The league has invested years building programs around inclusion, respect, and social justice. There are campaigns, foundations, public commitments, and in the middle of all that, a franchise decides to give an official tribute to an industry that Kornet and others argue is frequently connected to exploitation and harm. But here's the layer that almost nobody is discussing. Here is what's buried underneath all the noise of the controversy itself. What looks like a reckless marketing decision from the Atlanta Hawks is actually something far more deliberate and calculated. This was not a mistake. This did not slip through without anyone noticing. This action went through approvals. It was planned with enough lead time to design and produce merchandise. It was announced publicly with a specific date attached. This is an intentional strategy. And the strategy is this: the controlled erosion of ethical boundaries to test the durability of the NBA brand. Think about it carefully. By triggering a reaction as strong as Luke Kornet's, by generating national headlines, by forcing everyone from casual fans to sports executives to take a position, the Hawks are not simply chasing free publicity. Although they are absolutely getting free publicity, that is not the end game. The real objective is to measure the temperature of public opinion. To stick a thermometer into the audience and ask a very specific question: how far can we go? What does the sports consuming public in 2025 actually consider acceptable? Where is the real line? Not the theoretical one, but the practical one that, when crossed, leads to lost sponsors, real boycotts, and measurable damage to the business. That is the hidden prize inside this story. The controversy itself is not the destination. The controversy is the tool. With this tribute, the Hawks are laying groundwork. They are mapping the terrain. They are deliberately opening a gap to see what falls through, to measure how loud the opposition gets, to observe whether sponsors react, to watch whether the league steps in or chooses silence. And if silence wins, if March 16th comes and goes without real consequences for the franchise, the message that gets sent is quietly devastating. There is room to go further. Next time, the boundary gets pushed a little more, and then a little more after that. This is the classic architecture of normalization. You don't shift a culture all at once. You shift it gradually, testing the edges, pulling back when there's pushback, advancing when the path stays clear. This was never really about the strip club. I want to say that again because it matters. This is not about the strip club. It is about the deliberate softening of moral standards in the name of engagement. The Hawks are either betting or are in the process of finding out whether they should bet that a more provocative, boundary-pushing, controversy-friendly identity could actually be more profitable over time than the family-safe image the NBA has spent decades cultivating. They are testing a hypothesis that the next generation of fans, the 18 to 35-year-olds the league desperately needs to capture and keep, responds better to a brand that isn't afraid to make people uncomfortable. That a league willing to take risks is more interesting than a league that plays it safe. And in the broader world of entertainment marketing, there is data that seems to support that kind of thinking. Provocative brands generate engagement. Controversy generates clicks and views. Views generate revenue. The problem, and this is the massive risk that the Hawks are taking with the entire league's reputation on the line, is that this math may be completely wrong for professional sports specifically. The NBA is not just an entertainment product. It is a sport with history, with heroes, with communities built over generations around specific values and shared meaning. When you start bending those values for the sake of edge, you are not just updating a marketing campaign. You are potentially estranging entire generations of fans who built their relationship with basketball around something they believed was worth caring about. And here is the painful irony. In trying to attract new audiences through provocation, the Hawks may be pushing away exactly the fans that make the league irreplaceable. Families, parents who bring kids to games, communities that have used basketball as a platform for growth and inspiration. Those fans don't get replaced easily. Luke Kornet saw this clearly. That's why he spoke up. That's why he framed it around the NBA being a safe space for all ages, because he understands that the real value of this league is not in being the most provocative, but in being the most accessible. And when you sacrifice accessibility for the sake of shock, you may be destroying the very thing that made the sport worth watching in the first place. What we are witnessing is a live social experiment. The Atlanta Hawks, whether they fully realize it or not, are running a real-time test on where the boundaries of public tolerance sit for a major professional sports organization, and the outcome of that experiment will have consequences that extend far beyond a single game on March 16th. It will shape what other franchises believe they can do. It will define how far the NBA is willing to stretch its identity in the name of engagement. It will determine what kind of league we are all going to be watching in the years ahead. And ultimately, that's not a decision that belongs to the Hawks alone. It belongs to the fans, the sponsors, the league, and every single person who chooses to speak up or stay silent. So what do you think about what the Hawks are doing here? Is this just aggressive marketing, or is there a bigger play to fundamentally change what the NBA stands for? Drop your take in the comments. Let's figure out together what is really going on behind all of this.